Okay, good afternoon. It's 1 p.m. and I'd like to call the Permit Review Committee meeting on the Commission of Chicago Landmarks to order. And we'll begin with the roll call of commission members. Commissioners, please reply here or present, and also confirm that you can see and hear me. And we'll begin with Commissioner Chairman Wong.
Thank you, Chairman. I can see and hear you.
Muted.
Oh,
We'll come back.
hear me.
Commissioner Ponce.
Hi, I can hear and see you, and I heard Commissioner Wong.
Oh, there we go. Maybe it's my computer, so I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. I think that
Okay.
was my computer.
Thanks.
Sorry about that. Great. So Commissioner Wong is here. Commissioner Ponce is here. Commissioner Tolliver.
President, I can hear and see you, and I also could hear Commissioner Wall.
Sorry about that. I guess I was muted. All right, perfect. We have a quorum. In 2020, Governor Pritzker signed Public Act 101-0640, making certain amendments to the Open Meetings Act so that we, along with other boards and commissions, can continue to host virtual meetings during the COVID-19 public health emergency, provided that certain conditions are met. One of those conditions is that Chairman Wong of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks determines that an in-person meeting of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks and its Permit Review Committee are not practical or prudent. Chairman Wong has determined pursuant to Section 7E2 of the Open Meetings Act that an in-person meeting of this Commission on Chicago Landmarks and its Permit Review Committee is not practical or prudent. He has also determined pursuant to Section 7E5 that because of the disaster as declared by the governor, it is infeasible for at least one member of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks or its chief administrative officer or its chief legal officer to be physically present at the meeting place for either meeting, in as much as there is no physical meeting place. Pursuant to a resolution adopted by the Commission on Chicago Landmarks on June 4th, 2020, regarding the chairman's emergency rulemaking powers, Chairman Wong issued emergency rules governing the conduct of remote public commission meetings and provisions for remote public participation effective February 18th, 2022. These rules are posted on the commission's website. In line with these emergency rules, today's regular Permit Review Committee meeting is a virtual meeting being simulcast to the general public via live streaming. Permit Review Committee meetings have been held virtually since May of 2020. Meetings are structured to minimize the chances for technical difficulties. Members of the general public have been encouraged to submit written statements in advance of the meeting, and these have been posted on the commission's website and are available for public view during the virtual meeting at www.chicago.gov/ccl. Per the emergency rules, verbal statements by the general public for all agenda items will take place at the beginning of the meeting. So all those wishing to speak at today's meeting should be signed into the Zoom meeting at this time. Before we hear staff presentations on the agenda items and ask to hear from owners or applicants and their teams, we will open the floor to members of the general public who wish to comment about the items to be heard on today's agenda. Members of the general public wishing to comment should use the raise hand function of Zoom to indicate that they wish to speak. Members of the public not using a smartphone or a computer and instead phoning in to the meeting should press *9 to activate the raise hand function and do the same to deactivate it. I or the meeting facilitator will call out the names one by one and unmute those people. Once unmuted, speakers should give their full name and organization, if any, they represent. Each speaker is allocated 3 minutes to speak. Once all members of the general public wishing to make a comment have been given an opportunity to do so, we will go through the agenda. I would ask that owners or applicants and their representatives, as well as aldermen, wait to speak until after the staff presentations have been made on their agenda item. I'd like to go through the agenda items to allow for public comment at this time. First is agenda item 1, the project at 5200 West Chicago, the Laramie State Bank building. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item?
Chairman, we have one hand raised, Preservation Chicago.
Great. Please hear from Preservation Chicago.
Thanks. Thank you, commissioners. My name is Mary Lou Seidel. I'm the Director of Community Engagement for Preservation Chicago. We wholeheartedly endorse and enthusiastically support the restoration and renovation of the Laramie State Bank building, which has been on our Chicago Most Endangered list as recently as 2019. We really commend the city of Chicago for taking the lead in really saving this historic landmark and really iconic representation of some of the greatest work from the Northwestern Terracotta Company and its Art Deco designs. And I think we are grateful for this opportunity to speak on it, but also continue to encourage the staff and their thorough review of oversight of the rehabilitation process. But we couldn't be more thrilled to see it going forward, and the great team working on this project, Heartland Alliance and Bauer Latoza. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary Lou. And that, I believe, is all for this agenda item. Seeing no others, second is agenda item 2, the project at the Greenstone Church in the Pullman district. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item?
Chairman, we have Mr. Ward Miller.
Okay, Mr. Ward Miller.
Yes, can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we can.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you. Well, good afternoon to you and all the commissioners, and happy summer, if you will. I'm Ward Miller. I'm Executive Director of Preservation Chicago, and we really want to support this nomination and this permit for the Greenstone Church in Pullman by Solon S. Beeman. This is really a fabulous church building. It's been really a cornerstone of the Pullman community, envisioned by Beeman and Mr. George Pullman himself. And unfortunately, this beautiful serpentine green sandstone has been deteriorating for quite some time and is very unstable. So we really do recognize the importance of the removal of this stone and replacement with a facsimile stone that mimics the original material. Sometimes we have to just take extraordinary moves to protect extraordinary buildings. And I think this is a fine example. I also want to note, this is everybody coming together and working on this project and struggling with solutions. And I think this solution we feel is really a correct way to go. And also want to just note that I don't know if this project could have happened without the Adopt a Landmarks ordinance and its revisions in recent years for the city and the Department of Planning Development Historic Preservation Division and the staff there to select these wonderful projects that are sponsored in part by the Adopt a Landmark program, which is really a developer funded program through the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. So on so many levels, this is an important aspect of not only the Pullman community in Chicago's South Side, but it's also recognized as part of the Pullman National Monument. I just want to say that this is a wonderful project, and this is everybody coming together to see this vision become a reality. And of course, we're all hoping that one day that the National Park Service could perhaps be even more of a partner in stewarding some of these buildings in Pullman that have been exhibiting issues and deferred maintenance over time. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, for your statement. Any others for this item?
No other hand raised, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move to the next item, item number 3, the project at 2117 to 2139 North Milwaukee, the Congress Theater. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item?
No hand raised.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the next item, item number 4. I see a hand. Is that item number 4 is the project at 3055 West Logan. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item? I see one.
We have Ward Miller again.
Mr. Ward Miller.
Yes, forgive me, Mr. Chairman. I was raising my hand on the Congress Theater.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sorry
Okay.
about that. Our Zoom technicalities here. We at Preservation Chicago fully support the restoration and renovation of the Congress Theater complex, which is located at 2135 North Milwaukee Avenue in the Logan Square community. We have been on record supporting this revisioning initiative under several owners over time, and we're hopeful that a restoration of the theater and its facades and storefronts, along with its blade sign and marquee, will finally begin soon, along with the restoration and renovation of the residential portions of the complex. This theater has been a local Logan Square landmark since its opening in 1926 under the Lube Liner and Trent's chain, and then later by the Balaban and Katz chain. But unfortunately, it's been closed since about 2013 as a concert venue. But in the early 2000s, it was also endangered, and we were part of an effort with Logan Square Preservation and even the Richard Nickel Committee to seek the landmark designation for this important theater. And I recall being one of the members of the general public to support in testimony the designation. So 20 years later, it's good to know that there's going to be a reinvestment in the Congress Theater, and that's forthcoming. And we just want to support this. This is really an important building in so many ways to not only the Logan Square community, but the near northwest side. And it's one of the grand movie palaces that has survived, and we're grateful for this. And a lot of false starts under previous owners, but just want to indicate our support for a reinvestment in this building, a restoration of the theater. And I just want to share that about 15 years ago, Preservation Chicago had a tour of the theater and an event there. And we had all the commissioners from the Commission on Chicago Landmarks, minus a few like Commissioner Baird. And we all crawled up across the ceiling, across a catwalk, and into the big rosette in the middle of the theater. And there were probably 20 of us or so up there all at the same time, crawling around amongst the plaster ornament and all the colored lights. And it was really a wonderful time to be able to share that with the city, and looking forward to adventures like that with all of you in the future. But and I say that with a big smile, but we are very much in support of this reinvestment in one of our great Chicago landmarks on the northwest side of our city and in Logan Square. So thank you so much for your support of this and the staff support of this project.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. And that was the comment on item number 3, the Congress Theater. Are there any more comments on this item? I see none. So moving now to item number 4, the project at 3055 West Logan. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on item number 4, 3055 West Logan? Seeing none. We're going to go to item number 5 on the agenda, which is the project at 643 West Arlington. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none. Next item on the agenda is item number 6, the project at 212 East Ontario. Are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none. Finally, we have agenda item 7, the project at 2211 West Walton. And are there any members of the general public wishing to speak on this item? I see one.
Well, we have Lily as.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. I'm speaking on behalf, I am the homeowner of this project, and wanted to give you a little bit of history about our involvement in our community.
Could you also present your name as well?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Lilia Zaparanik.
Okay, thank you.
I will have joining me our architect as well as our developer, our builder, the contractor. We've been in the neighborhood since 1990. I was actually born and raised in Ukrainian Village, and we are very heavily vested in the community. Watched the neighborhood change for good and for bad as well. We've recently renovated our home at 1024 North Hoyne very painstakingly, with the Landmark Committee's help, refurbished the entire property with all the trim on the exterior to conform with landmarks. We're very, very interested in keeping the community according to maintain the landmark character of the entire area. So this property that we're doing at 2211 Walton, we are seeking to do a third floor addition towards the rear. And when we started working with the architect, we were very clear that we were very conscientious about having the building blend in, which is why we set the addition setback to 20 feet. We also worked with the Landmark Committee in making a mock-up of that third floor addition, and they came out to view it along with our architect being there. And just wanted to make it known that we're not developers. We are here for the long haul. We do own a lot of property in the area, which we've maintained and rehabbed to make it look like it belongs in the neighborhood. We own 6 flats, 12 flats, things like that. We care very much about the area, so much so that my father, actually, Julian Koulis, was responsible for naming Ukrainian Village back when Mayor Jane Byrne was in office. So we do have a vested interest in the neighborhood and would really like to see our project move forward, as we just want to, stay in the area and just expand this footprint of our home as much as square footage allows per the FAR for the zoning that it is currently.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
We'll review that project later, so we'll be able to really look into those details. Thank you. Any others, members of the public like to speak on this item? I see none. So I think that is all the members of the general public who have indicated they wish to speak on the agenda items, and this concludes the public comment portion of the meeting. And before we proceed, I'd like to note that Chairman Wong has kindly stepped in so that we have a quorum for today's permit review committee meeting. However, he will need to recuse himself for the first agenda item, and he has appointed Reverend Richard Tolliver to serve on the permit review committee for the initial portion of the meeting until that item is heard. So thank you both for joining us today, and we'll now go through the agenda. And the first part of the agenda is the approval of the previous meeting, which was the regular meeting of May 5th, 2022. Commissioners, you all know about the raised hand function, and I'd like to request a motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes, Commissioner Ponce.
I'll second that, Commissioner Wong.
Motion by Commissioner Ponce, seconded by Commissioner Wong, and I'm also a yes. Richard, Chairman, Commissioner Tolliver?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm also a yes, and this motion carries unanimously. And the minutes will be posted on the Commission's website. Moving to our first project, 5200 West Chicago, the Laramie State Bank Building in the 37th Ward is the proposed rehabilitation of the 3-story former bank building for commercial uses as part of a larger community development. Chairman Wong.
I'm recusing myself. Yep.
So if you'd like to turn off your camera, mute yourself for this one, and like to call on Joyce Ramos for the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Laramie State Bank building has been vacant since it was foreclosed on 2012 and has many deferred maintenance issues. In 2021, the City of Chicago's Invest Southwest selected the Austin United Alliance's vision for the Austin RFP site, which was intended to address the community's goal of adding new amenities to the site while reestablishing it as a neighborhood icon. The project is also pursuing federal historic tax credits. The significant features of the building include all exterior aspects of the building. Go through the scope of work of the project. The terracotta facade is in poor condition with severely cracked and spalled with several missing sections. The applicant is proposing to address the terracotta issues through a combination of repair and replacement. For units beyond repair, replacement is necessary. The applicant is proposing to address the terracotta issues through a combination of repair and replacement. And these replacement units will be either terracotta or glass fiber reinforced concrete. If GFRC is used as a substitute material, the replacement units shall be produced by a plant certified programs manufacturer or to a comparable quality standard as certified by a licensed structural engineer. Historic preservation staff should be contacted to review samples of the proposed replacement of the terracotta or GFRC units to verify that it matches the historic units in size, design, shape, color, texture, and finish prior to order and installation. Samples representing all colors and textures to the extent that these are needed to be placed shall be required. Additionally, the coating used to repair the terracotta shall match the historic in color and texture. Masonry repair details shall be submitted with the permit plans, and a mock-up of the repair shall be reviewed and approved by staff prior to construction. The new mortar will match the historic mortar in color, joint profile, texture, strength, and type. And a mock-up of the pointing mortar shall be reviewed and approved by staff prior to construction. The existing historic windows are deteriorated and are proposed to be replaced. The replacement windows will match the historic windows in design, arrangement, glass size, muntin arrangements, profiles, finish, colors, and trim. And all new glass shall be clear vision. Large scale side-by-side dimension drawings of the existing and proposed windows for each window type with the sill, head, meeting rail, muntins, mullions, brick mold, and trim shall be submitted with the permit drawings for review and approval. The non-historic front doors are proposed to be replaced. And historic preservation staff recommends that these doors will match the historic doors as closely as possible, and all new glass shall be clear vision. Large scale elevation section and detailed drawings shall be submitted with the permit drawings for review and approval. The historic raised terracotta letters along the top of the principal facades highlighted here and the elevations in yellow will remain and be restored. The two-story corner sign for the Citizens National Bank, probably installed sometime in the 1960s, and shown here on the elevation drawings, and the dashed red line will be removed. Future signage shown on the south elevation drawing in blue is proposed to be located where the original clock tower, or I'm sorry, the original clock was installed, and a future new corner sign will be smaller than the existing sign and similar in size and location of the original corner clock in order to be in keeping with the character of the building. A sign mounted at the parapet on the east elevation shown on the elevation drawings here in green is also proposed. A sign at this location would be appropriate since there was an illuminated one-story sign that has since been removed. In concept, the locations of the proposed new signs are appropriate. However, no signage is approved at this time. And each new sign shall be submitted under separate permit applications and should include an accurate elevation section and attachment drawings with sign dimensions, existing conditions shown, and materials and illumination identified. Based on historic images and elaborate cornice, which is now removed, once crowned the building, the applicant is proposing to rebuild the parapet and recreate the original decorative cornice, which is highlighted here in orange on the elevation drawings and based on the historic photographic documentation. Historic preservation staff recommends to submit enlarged section and detailed drawings of the new parapet with the permit drawings for review and approval. The interior of the building, shown here in yellow, is not included in the significant features. The interior will be renovated into commercial uses that include a blues museum, bank branch, cafe, and a business incubator. A new elevator will be added in a location that won't interfere with exterior walls or windows. It will not impact the exterior significant features of the building. A new structure will be built on the vacant lots immediately adjacent to the bank building. It will be located towards the north part of the bank building, and the section of the west wall that will be concealed by the building is a secondary elevation, which is clad with unadorned common brick. Historically, this wall was concealed by buildings adjacent to the bank building. This wall will remain in place. There will be two new punched openings shown here in blue to access the courtyard. However, no door openings will be provided to connect the interior of the historic building with a new structure, and therefore is not considered an addition to the historic building. This will be a mixed income multi-story rental building shown here on the site plan in gray. That includes a green roof, a landscape, public plaza, social spaces, and outdoor art. This portion of the development is not located within the designated lot and is not under the commission's purview and will not adversely alter, change, obscure, damage, or destroy any significant historic or architectural features of the historic bank building. Staff is showing this to you for informational purposes only, and this development will be reviewed at the upcoming Chicago Plan Commission meeting this month. Staff recommends approval for the new scope of work with the conditions mentioned during this presentation and also listed here on this slide. Alderman Mitz issued a letter of support for the proposal, and this concludes my presentation. If you have any questions about my presentation or for the architect and owner who are both here, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Any questions for Joyce before we hear from the applicant? Seeing none, let's hear from the applicant and applicant representatives. I think we have Terry Andrea here.
Hi, I am here. Thank you. I don't have anything official to add beyond Joyce's presentation. She did a great job of summing up what the intention is here. We are.
Introduce yourself and kind of your affiliation with the project.
So, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Andrea Terry. I'm a principal with Bauer Latosa Studio, the architect of record for the Laramie Bank restoration.
Thank you.
Joyce did a great job of presenting what it is we're intending to do, and we're thrilled to be a part of the team to revitalize not only this remarkable building, but to bring some life back to this corner of the West Side. As Joyce mentioned, the project is going for historic tax credits, both state and federal as well. So we do intend to follow the Secretary of Interior standards, not only for the exterior of the building in compliance with the Landmarks Commission, but also for the interior restoration of the significant spaces as well. So it is a pretty significant restoration project, and we're happy to see it move forward.
Great, thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, are there any points of discussion on the project anyone would like to share? Okay, seeing none, like to request a motion to adopt the staff recommendation for the project. Do we have a motion?
Motion, Commissioner Ponce, and congratulations to the team. A great project.
Thank you, Commissioner Ponce. Commissioner Ponce has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Tolliver. And I'm a yes, and as well, and the motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, very exciting project, and really look forward to seeing it come to fruition, and very happy that the cornice will be restored. I think that's going to be a really good way to bring this building back to life. So good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, so item number 2, the Greenstone Church in the Pullman District in the 9th Ward, the proposed replacement of serpentine stone cladding with matching cast stone units. And I'd like to thank Commissioner Tolliver for participating today, and you're free to leave. Chairman Wong, welcome back. And with that, I'd like to call on Joyce Ramos for the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This project was conditionally awarded an Adopt a Landmark funds in 2021 to support the stabilization and reconstruction of the bell tower. The replacement project is in front of you today. Just wanted the committee to know that this will be presented to the commission for a full vote for the Adopt a Landmark scope and budget. And we're just going over the scope today for review and approval for the replacement of the stone cladding. The deteriorating condition of the bell tower is of concern for public safety and the impact of the church grounds and some surrounding communities. The facades of the bell tower are currently netted to prevent falling stone, and the grounds are fenced off to reduce risk of injury to the public. The exterior walls of the Greenstone Church, which are clad in the distinctive colored serpentine stone, exhibits extensive deterioration. Serpentine was used as a building material in the late 19th century. However, its popularity was short-lived because of its fragility and difficulty of accepting common masonry treatment. It is a soft and porous stone, and the presence of water accelerates its deterioration during the freeze-thaw cycles. In 2017, WJE performed a limited condition assessment of the exterior facade. Spalling was noted at embedded anchors at various locations throughout the facade. And very extensive exfoliation was noted throughout the facade, and most notably on the bell tower. Vertical cracks generally ranging between 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch wide were also found at each corner of the bell tower. Previous attempts to repair the serpentine have been attempted at the Greenstone Church with masonry repair mortars. These repairs have not been effective as the deteriorated stone provides an inadequate substrate for the mortar. Masonry repair mortars are also considered as a Band-Aid as they have a limited life of 15 years and require regular maintenance in themselves. Despite the repair mortar patches, the stone continues to experience cracks and spalling near and under the mortar patches. On the west facade of the church, a yellow crust had formed on the surface of the serpentine. It is not the original color of the stone, and this crust is relatively thin and somewhat harder than the underlying stone, and this loss of the surface crust can be attributed to thermal stressing and entrapped moisture. Historic preservation guidelines state that deteriorated historic materials shall be repaired rather than replaced. However, where deteriorated features cannot be repaired, they may be replaced to match the old in design, color, texture, and overall visual qualities and where possible materials. The applicant is proposing to replace the deteriorated serpentine. Serpentine cannot be used since it is no longer quarried in the United States and is considered a poor material for exterior building stone. Other green colored stone were considered as a replacement material, but based on research and experience, these alternate building stones have a significantly different appearance and physical properties. Therefore, the applicant is proposing to use cast stone as a substitute material. Cast stone is an almost dry cement, lime, and aggregate mixture, which is dry tamped into a mold to produce a dense stone-like unit. It is more durable than serpentine, with an expected service life greater than 75 years. A sample of the cast stone is shown here, side by side with a historic serpentine unit. Staff finds that the color, texture, and finish to be a good match. The pigmenting of the cast stone is integral throughout the entire matrix of the unit. The form in which the material is cast will be shaped to match the chiseled dressing marks of the historic stone. A mixed color design will be developed to accomplish matching the original color range. Based on observations of the existing random ashlar pattern, there appears to be a range of 8 to 10 repeating sizes. It is difficult to obtain exact dimensions of each unit due to the deteriorated condition of the stones. During the pre-construction process, the contractor and the engineer will work with the cast stone supplier to generate a shop stone setting drawing illustrating the entire tower, and if required, additional stone sizes will be added to increase the size range. The intent is to replicate the original facade. As proposed, complete photographic documentation and measured drawings of the existing conditions at the bell tower, including identification of existing stone sizes, shapes, colors, textures, and finishes, shall be submitted to historic preservation staff with the permit application. 100% of the serpentine on the bell tower shall be removed and replaced with new cast stone units matching the historic serpentine in sizes, shapes, colors, textures, and finishes that currently exist. Replacement samples are to be submitted to historic preservation staff for review and approval prior to order and installation. Any removed stone that is in good condition shall be salvaged and stored on site to be used on other areas of the building that require repair. As proposed, a shop stone setting drawing illustrating the entire tower shall be submitted to staff with the permit application, and if required, additional stone sizes will be added to increase the size range to match the original facade. And lastly, should unforeseen conditions require expansion in scope, the applicant shall notify historic preservation staff to review and approve additional work. In addition to replacing the deteriorated serpentine stone on the bell tower, the applicant is also proposing the following repairs to other features on the bell tower, which include isolated repairs, cleaning and painting of the galvanized sheet metal cornice, repairs and apply new perimeter sealant at the wood frame louvers, restore the doors on the west facade of the bell tower, and clean and repaint the handrails at the bell tower exterior stairs. Alternate repairs include evaluating copper shingles for isolated repairs and underlayment as necessary, repair cast in place concrete stairs, in situ repairs to art glass or offsite repairs of re-letting, re-cementing, and reglazing are required, and repair wood frame windows and art glass. Staff recommends approval for the new scope of work with the conditions mentioned during this presentation and also listed here on this slide. And this concludes my presentation. If you have any questions about my presentation or for the owner and engineer and contractor who are also here today, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Any questions for Joyce before we go to the applicant?
I did have a couple of questions regarding the sample of the cast stone. Can you go back to that slide?
Sure.
So this sample, which is great, I mean, it looks wonderful, of this particular panel with a border and the texture on that. If you look at the photo on the right, though, that full bleed of these, is that also these full bleed textured stone pieces in a random ashlar? Is that also going to be with the cast stone replaced?
If the applicant engineer would like to chime in on this one to answer that question.
Yeah, we can comment on that.
Okay, let's hear from the applicant on this one. Is it Jack Trivia, Sarah Horton, Rachel Will, and Nicole Declay?
I think Rachel was trying to speak, but her microphone was a little muted there.
Hello, I'm Rachel Will from WJE, the engineer on this project. We were the ones that actually did the initial assessment in 2017. We believe that this dressing of the stone, the border and the texture actually exists throughout, and that there's just been such significant deterioration of the bell tower that most of that relief is gone, because where you see in this photo on the right here, that dressing of the stone is the original stone. The color is because of the oxidation, but the dressing has just been worn away. And so that's the goal, is to have that texture and dressing on all of the new units, because that would have been what had existed. So you sort of see it on these images on the right, where the stone is intact, that texture exists, and where it is eroded and scaling is where the texture is gone.
Okay.
If we find some evidence when we actually get up close and find that that's not the case, then we would resubmit from a texture standpoint. But we have every reason to believe that the stone was dressed throughout the entire bell tower.
So I guess my question really has to do with there will be a variety, because you have different sizes of stone.
Different sizes, yeah.
Yeah. So are you going to do different texture depths, and particularly on these kind of full bleed pieces? The sample only showed the one with a border, but you're saying, I guess, when you get to a full bleed without a border, that starts to change things also.
Yeah, typically we've seen the border on most sides of the units, and where it might extend into a full bleed is what we think they might have cut on site. So we will definitely, if there's any evidence for that, once we get up close, where the goal is to match as much as possible. But from everything that we understand from what's left on the building is that border existed on all four sides of the stone.
Right. So, I mean, and part of what I'm getting at is that, knowing that cast stone, you're doing replications of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So would you be doing, I don't know, 5 or 10 different types of pieces that once they get put into that random ashlar pattern, it kind of blends up, it all blends in together, but
Yes.
the texture itself would be different on each of these sample pieces. I guess that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit tough, right? Because we don't have all of the original textures to match, so we can only match what we have. But
Right.
yes, there's going to be 8 to 10 different, upwards, maybe even more of the different samples.
Okay. And then finally, the last question I had regarding the cast stone. So the coloration though is integrated fully into the thickness of the stone of the piece itself. And what is the thickness of that?
So yes, it will be integrated throughout, and we're going to try and match the size of the units. So I think the stone units are probably about a 4-inch thickness. So we'll try to keep we're not making it a panel structure. It's really going to replicate the unit structure that we have of the stone.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Have fun. That'll be beautiful though when it's done. Thank you.
All right, great question. Any other questions for the commissioners? Seeing none, final points of discussion from commissioners? And seeing none, I think we're ready to request a motion to adopt the staff recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Chairman Wong. We have a second?
Second, Commissioner Ponce.
Seconded by Commissioner Ponce. And I'm a yes as well. Motion carries unanimously. Good luck.
It's a great project.
Beautiful project.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 3, 2117 to 2139 North Milwaukee, the Congress Theater in the First Ward. The proposed exterior and interior rehabilitation of existing theater building with ground floor retail and 17 dwelling units. And Joyce Ramos for the presentation.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. A previous project at this location was reviewed and conditionally approved by the Permit Review Committee in April of 2016. The developer proposed an exterior and interior rehabilitation of the existing theater building with new ground floor retail, 41 dwelling units, a new 1-story rooftop addition, and a new rooftop deck. For reference, a copy of the decision letter and packet were included in the packet for your review. The project has since come under new ownership. Since the conditional approval that was granted in 2016 has expired, the proposed rehabilitation will need to be reviewed anew at today's meeting. The developer intends to restore the Congress Theater as a state-of-the-art live music venue, rehab existing space with 17 residential units, renovate theater offices and 13,000 square feet of retail and restaurant spaces, and convert existing space into office workspace. The scope of the project is generally the same as what was conditionally approved in 2016 with a few changes. And the proposed changes actually reduce the project scope that affects the historic components of the theater. And the summary of the changes include removal of the hotel scope, residential will occur in the Milwaukee Avenue building, and office and commercial space will occur in the Corner and Rockwell buildings. Removal of the 4th floor rooftop bar in the Milwaukee Avenue building, removal of the 2nd floor openings and connection bridge from within the interior theater lobby, a new box office to be within a small retail space behind standard retail storefronts, and the addition of vertical circulation volumes, which are not visible from the public way. So we'll start with the exterior scope. There are only 2 storefronts facing Rockwell that contain some original components and 4 storefronts facing Milwaukee that contain original components. The original design of the storefronts had a 2-step recess and a single central door with a ceramic tile floor, paneled wood ceiling, rolled metal storefront, wood transoms with pattern glazing, and a knee wall of unknown cladding material. All of the remaining historic storefronts differ due to various modifications, and there was never any flashing or waterproofing system incorporated within or below the original storefront system. The storefronts that contain historic components are in varying overall condition from failed to poor overall and their deteriorated condition. Some individual historic components may not be deteriorated beyond repair, such as the wood ceiling panels and the transom glazing, 15 out of 27 of which have the original pattern glass. The applicant proposes to salvage these individual components to be reinstalled within the new storefront system if possible. Given their deteriorated condition, all of the storefronts are proposed to be replaced with new custom metal storefront systems. The architect has explained to staff that it is not feasible to recreate a combination of wood transom metal storefronts to meet current code requirements and to meet the desired warranty standards. New metal profiles will be designed to be similar as possible to original profiles with 1-inch wide mullions at the storefront and 2-inch wide sash frames at the transom. The new storefronts will recreate the 3-inch transom setback and will incorporate insulated glazing. New honed granite stone will be clad. New honed granite stone will clad the knee walls, and the new ceramic tile flooring is proposed to match the original tile flooring colors and pattern. Where the original wood paneled ceiling cannot be reinstalled, a new ceiling to match the historic configuration is proposed with a new mechanical grill at the ceiling in front of the doors. New retail doors to match the historic door design are also proposed, some of which are to be fixed in place, and others will be operable with ADA push buttons to access the interior retail spaces. Staff recommends approval of the new storefront replacements with shop drawings and storefronts. Finished color samples to be reviewed and approved by historic preservation staff prior to order and installation. Staff further recommends that the pattern glazing transom should be salvaged and reinstalled wherever possible within the new transoms, and new glazing to be similar in appearance to the original transoms. Historic theater entry doors are proposed to be salvaged for conditions assessment, and any doors that are that can be repaired will be reinstalled. For any doors beyond repair, new doors are proposed to replicate the historic doors in appearance. The original decorative frames and mullions are proposed to be retained. Staff recommends that the condition assessment and replacement door shop drawings should be reviewed and approved by staff prior to order and installation. The existing upper floors are not historic and are proposed to be replaced with new windows. Based on a historic photo, the typical street facing windows are 8/1 for the larger window openings and 6/1 for the smaller window openings. The replacements are proposed to be new clad wood double hung windows with the 8/1 and 6/1 configurations to match the historic configurations. A new metal brick mold profile is proposed to match the historic brick mold profile, and the simulated divided lights are proposed to have interior and exterior munching profiles that are 7/8 of an inch wide with an interior spacer bar. A new box office is proposed to be located within the small retail space behind the standard retail storefront, just northwest of the theater entrance and circled here in the elevation in red. Staff recommends approval of this new space as it does not affect the appearance of the storefront. 4 new vertical circulation volumes are proposed that would project above the roof. They are significantly set back from the primary facades and are approximately 9'3" taller than the top of the existing parapet wall. These enclosures are no taller or larger than is required by code, and staff believes that they will not be visible from the public right away. The cladding material is proposed to be solid metal paneling, and staff recommends that the proposed metal cladding shall be a dark gray color in a non-reflective finish. The signage proposal is the same as what the committee saw in 2016, and the conditions of approval are also the same. The proposed blade sign is proposed to replicate the original historic metal lit letters. The lower part of the original Congress blade support structure remains, and the project includes adding the missing top portion of the sign armature and recreating the missing letters to match the historic photo. The blade sign aluminum letters will be mounted back to back with LED filament light bulbs. The existing marquee over the theater entrance is not original, but is proposed to be retained with new non-flashing digital signage to replace the original removable black letters on white background. The new theater operator sign outlined with a dashed red box is proposed above the marquee. New digital signs are also proposed within the historic poster cases at the theater entrance. New projecting 2x3-foot retail signs are proposed above the storefronts within the brick spandrel area, and no other information. No zoning analysis was provided with this model. Conceptually, the signs are acceptable. Staff recommends that the proposed signage, including the non-flashing digital marquee and poster signs and the new Congress blade sign letters, are not approved at this time. Additional information, such as a complete zoning analysis, type of digital sign images with specified colors and quantity of image changes per day, sign depths, sign colors, methods of illumination, and attachment details regarding the proposed signs will be submitted for future review by the Permit Review Committee. Okay, on the interior, the historic entry vestibule will be restored with the painted glass ceilings repaired to be transparent once again. The historic ticket booths and terrazzo flooring will all be retained, and the metal and glass display cases are proposed to be retrofitted with non-flashing digital signs. In the main lobby, alterations include 2 new openings with the flat plaster area for access to additional buildings, to adjacent buildings shown in the dashed red circles, new code compliant railings for the grand stair, and repair and polish the terrazzo flooring. Staff recommends that enlarged details of the 2 new openings within the plaster walls for ground floor access to adjacent spaces should be included in the permit plans. And samples and mock-ups of plaster repair, paint colors, and new acoustical treatments should be submitted for review and approval for staff prior to order and installation. Additionally, any new fire protection, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical elements within the designated landmarked interior spaces should be located so as not to damage or obscure any ornamental features that should be designed to blend in with the space as much as possible. Drawings showing attachment locations and details should be reviewed and approved by staff prior to order and installation. All right, finally, staff recommends approval of the project with the conditions mentioned during the presentation and also listed here on this slide. The alderman has submitted a letter of support for the project, and this concludes my presentation. The owner and the architect are also here today, and please let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joyce. Any questions for Joyce before we hear from the applicant? Seeing none, let's hear from the applicant. Is it Brian Foote?
Actually, Andy Tanucci here, principal at Woodhouse Tanucci Architects. We're the architect for the project. Back again in front of you, commissioners. Thank you again for seeing this again. Hopefully, the second or whatever time this is a charm for the Congress Theater. We really don't have much to add. We appreciate Joyce's help with this. And I think that her report was comprehensive. The project is very much the same project that was reviewed many years ago by your commission. The changes that have been made, I think, make it even more in keeping with the original building, the removal of the rooftop bar and deck. For one, the removal of the interior bridge in the lobby, all the measures we were going to bring the building back to its historic glory are intact. The couple of additions that Joyce mentioned are for providing accessibility to the second and third floor, and those are not visible from the street at all. As you can see from our package, the sight lines indicate that those are far enough back that they're not visible from anywhere on the street. So if you have any other questions, we're here for you, but otherwise we'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Mr. Tanucci. It's nice to see the project come back. Any questions for Mr. Tanucci?
I have a couple of questions, and Andy, I'm not sure whether you can answer this. The 17 dwelling units, could you, or could, I guess, the developer, could you talk about those a little bit in terms of those are rental units or those for sale, and the sizes of those units? Are those, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms? Ooh, what's the makeup of the of those?
John Reynolds is here from the new ownership group. I can let him speak to that a little bit and fill in if necessary.
Great, thanks. Mr. Reynolds?
Sure. Yep. Thank you very much. John Reynolds with Bomb Revision. It's 16 units that are apartment units, and they'll be 100% affordable. It's a mix of studio and 2 bedroom, 1 bedroom. And Andy, I'm not sure if you've got the sizes or the average that are there, but the geometry of the spaces is kind of set by the corridor that's there that we're going to maintain as part of the NPS. So there's only so much that we could do as far as expanding or changing the footprint of those. So for the most part, these units will stay to what was originally and had historically been used as apartments there.
Thank you. So how do you do your outreach? If they're all affordable, how do you do your outreach to tenants? And
Well, the outreach will be the same, but the limitations for the rent will be in line with the affordable guidelines. It will not be a Department of Housing project, but we will, per the RDA, will stick to those limits as far as what we can charge for those.
okay, thanks. The project is gorgeous. I'm also looking forward to the signage when that comes back, which I will tell you, signage has long been an issue with this commission. And I will make note that we approved the Essex Inn sign on Michigan Avenue a while ago, and I keep seeing variations to how that was originally said to be done, and the LED lighting. So get a really good LED person, signage person on that, because I keep complaining about Essex Inn.
I think it's great that we'll come back to you to look at that, very specifically. We'll have, all the necessary details to review that with you in depth at that time.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Any other questions? I just had a quick one. It's an excellent project. Very happy to see it back. And I was just curious, speaking on the residential portion, is there anything worth saving with regard to like a residential lobby, or is that, I don't remember seeing it in the presentation, and I was just curious.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No. Andy, you're much more equipped. Go ahead.
So in working with both the city and the state, National Park Service as well, for the historic tax credits, there's the existing hallways are significant and will be preserved. So the existing second and third floor hallways in all of the residential buildings were deemed to be significant and will be preserved. They're actually in pretty reasonable condition to this day. In the Milwaukee building, there's also a historic stairwell, an open stair. That too will be renovated, restored to its original condition.
Cool, great. And nothing with the ground floor lobby, or is there anything?
There really isn't much of a lobby.
Oh, okay.
It was really a spot where the mailboxes existed, and then the stairs was pretty small. And our plan is to actually grow that a bit to provide more of a welcoming environment, and to tie it into the new elevator, which there's no elevator that existed or served this previously.
Yeah, they're just small vestibules.
Okay, all right, cool, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other discussion from commissioners?
Comment from me. Just wanted to congratulate you on the whole package. Joyce, your presentation, and you can really tell the whole storyline from start to finish, what the story is behind this building and what it will be. So very, very nicely done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ponce. I'll definitely second that. With that, no further discussion. I'd like to request a motion to adopt the staff recommendation. Do we have a motion?
Motion, Commissioner Ponce.
Motion
Second.
by Ponce, seconded by Chairman Wong, and I'm a yes as well, and the motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, and good luck. We look forward to seeing this come to fruition.
Thank you all very much.
Next item on the agenda, 3055 West Logan in the Logan Boulevard District, 32nd Ward. The proposed modification of existing bay on one side elevation visible from the public right away. And this one, I believe, is Emily Barton for the presentation.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. This property is located right along Logan Boulevard with an alley to the immediate west. You can see it highlighted on the zoning map there in red. The applicants are planning a full interior and exterior rehabilitation of the single-family residence. Exterior work includes a vertical extension of the side bay, which is shown in yellow on the site plan, replacement of the rear open stairs, and select window replacement with new aluminum clad windows. So in order to accommodate the new internal stair, the applicants are proposing to extend an existing side bay window, which is set back approximately 11 feet from the front facade on the west elevation from the current first floor to the basement through second floor. Although there is a finished return, the bay is located on the common brick portion of the side elevation. Sandboard maps indicate that a frame bay has historically existed here since at least 1921. The bay is not overly ornamental, with a simple dentil trim below the sloped roofline, compatible with the detailing of the front facade, and is approximately 10 foot 6 inches tall and 14 foot 4 inches wide with 3 sides. The existing bay material does not look to be original to the building and has likely been modified sometime in the past. So the applicant is proposing to maintain the existing width of the bay while extending it approximately 8 foot 2 inches up and 4 foot 3 inches down with a new concrete foundation underneath, and the modified bay will be no larger in footprint than the historic. The applicant intends to remove the existing bay and reframe it with new solid wood and plywood sheathing while salvaging the existing bay elements, including trim, casing, cornice, and dentils. The architect is unsure of the capacity of the existing bay framing, especially when considering the addition of a new foundation and second floor. Staff recommends that the reconstructed bay should match the existing in width and projection. They then propose to clad the exterior in fiber cement board siding and relocate the cornice to the top of the bay. Staff recommends that all material samples be submitted with the permit application. Even though visible from Logan Boulevard, the west elevation is secondary to the building. Visibility studies were provided by the applicant to evaluate the addition's visibility from the street. And the basement and first floor of the bay, you'll see, are largely concealed behind the existing front porch in almost every view. However, the second floor portion will be visible from certain vantage points on Logan. Because of the bay's location on a secondary elevation, the lack of original historic material, and the compatibility of the new design, staff recommends approval as proposed with the conditions listed. And I believe somebody from ownership as well as the architecture firm is here if you have any questions for them or for me.
Thank you, Emily. Any questions for Emily? Seeing none, let's hear from the applicant. I believe it's Jacob Niklash. Jacob?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Hello, this is Jacob, and I'm Mike Shively, the architect of record on the project. I appreciate everyone's time looking at the project today. We have a great client, Tyson and Sarah, who I believe are listening in as well. They love the home. They love supporting, the historic landscape of Logan Boulevard. It is an unusual home in that it's on a quirky corner. It's not exactly a corner, but corner with the alley lot. Because of the quirky shape of the lot, it is a quirky shaped home with only about 900 square feet per floor. And so allowing us to raise the height and depth of this bay, which is only on the alley, will allow us to take what is currently an impossibly tight stair and loosen it up so the homeowner can make full use of this quirky home that they love. It would be very hard to make the small footprint work in any other way. So we appreciate you looking at the project, and we will definitely make our best effort to make these modifications as sympathetic as possible to the existing architecture that is there.
Great, thank you. Any questions, commissioners? All right, seeing none. Thank you for the presentation, and I think it looks really tasteful, and With that, I'd like to request a motion. We have a motion to adopt the staff recommendation.
So moved.
So moved by Chairman Wong. We have a second.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Ponce, and I'm a yes as well. And the motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you all.
Thank you. So moving to item number 5, 643 West Arlington in the Mid-North District in the 43rd Ward. We're looking at the proposed new rooftop addition atop an existing 3-story single-family residence. And Joyce, back to Joyce Ramos for the presentation.
Sorry, thanks again, Mr. Chairman. The proposed rooftop addition, highlighted here in yellow, is approximately 21 feet 7 inches wide and 22 feet 9 inches in depth. It is set back 40 feet 9 inches from the projecting bay on the front facade and 30 feet 7 inches from the principal facade. The side elevations are proposed to have full-length glass walls. The flat roof that covers the addition has a 1 foot 1 inch overhang on the west elevation. Access to the rooftop addition is provided by a stair and elevator located in an enclosure that is located behind an existing bay on the east elevation of the house. The location of the stair is existing in the house and will be extended up to the roof to provide access to the addition. The enclosure is proposed to be clad with brick to match the existing common brick below. Other features proposed on the roof include a new green roof in front of the roof terrace highlighted in green, the new skylight to the east of the rooftop addition above the existing bay highlighted here in orange, or actually it's in blue, a new mechanical unit located in front of the existing mechanical unit highlighted here in red, new planters are highlighted in purple, and glass guardrails are outlined here in orange. The front facade of the addition is proposed to be clad with black metal panels. The top of the principal parapet at the front facade of the house is 30 feet 9 inches above grade, and the top of the addition will be 41 feet 2 inches. The floor to ceiling height of the addition is 8 feet. Built-in planters are proposed to be installed directly against the parapet wall on the west and side elevations, and a glass guardrail with a continuous stainless steel guardrail cap will be mounted to the inside face of the parapet. While the top of the parapet is approximately 2 feet above the proposed roof terrace, the top of the guardrail is proposed to be at least 5 feet above the roof deck, as code requires that the guardrail is a minimum of 3 foot 6 inches above the adjacent surfaces. The glass guardrail will also wrap around the exterior roof terrace and is set back 30 feet from the projecting bay and 20 feet from the primary facade. Historic preservation staff reviews all rooftop additions for visibility, often utilizing mock-ups to accurately represent work which may be seen from the public right of way. To initially evaluate whether the rooftop addition is visible, the applicant provided digital renderings for staff review, and it was determined that the addition would be minimally visible from side elevations of the house, not visible from its front. At the request of historic preservation staff, the applicant created a physical mock-up. The staff visited the site and confirmed that the addition will be minimally visible on Arlington from several vantage points west and east of the building. Here, looking directly in front of the facade, directly across the street, the addition will not be visible in a screen behind the parapet and does not impact the front facade or roof line of the building. This vantage point east of the building, the addition will be visible, but is largely screened by the parapet and does not impact the front facade. An existing rooftop mechanical unit is very visible when viewing the building on the side elevation. A new mechanical unit is proposed to be the same size and will be located directly in front of the existing unit and will, as I said, it will be visible. Staff recommends that the new mechanical unit be relocated to the rear of the roof so it's not visible from the public right away. This is, it's hard to see here because there's the trees, but the new mechanical unit is here and it's very visible from the street. At this point, the addition will be visible. However, it is largely screened by the adjacent property and reads as a separate structure from the main building. The physical mock-up also included representation of a proposed guardrail shown here, pointing here in orange, and this will also be very visible. While the panels of the guardrail are clear glazing, the stainless steel cap is reflective in the sunlight and will give it a bright appearance. Additionally, any rooftop features Planting and landscaping on the roof terrace should be set back and low in height so as not to be visible from the public right away. Staff recommends that the planters on the west elevation be relocated so they are not adjacent to the parapet as well as the guardrail, to set it in 2 feet to minimize the height and visibility of the guardrail. Based on the mock-up and renderings, the addition will be minimally visible on the side elevations only when viewing the building across the street, east and west of the property. The addition is set far back enough at 40 feet that while visible from the side elevations, it does not impact the roof line of the front facade. The addition is contemporary and simplified in design while still complementing the historic architecture. Additionally, the elevator and stair enclosure is no taller or larger than is required by code and is not located, and it is located behind a projecting bay on the side elevation of the house and is not visible at all from the public way. Historic preservation staff recommends approval of the proposed rooftop addition with the condition that the front facade is clad in a dark, non-reflective color to differentiate it from historic masonry. Samples of this cladding material should be submitted to staff for review and approval. Okay, so staff recommends approval for the new scope of work with the conditions mentioned during the presentation and also listed here on the slide. Alderman Smith and the Park West Community Group have reviewed the project and have no objections. If you have any questions about my presentation, please let me know. The architects are also here today if you have any questions for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Any questions for Joyce, the commission?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to note, though, that the presentation is very, very clear. Drawings are done well, and all the explanations are extremely easy to decipher and understand. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chairman. Let's hear from the applicant. Is it Robert McFadden?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Yes, my name is Robert McFadden, and I'm an architect at D-Space Studio based here in Chicago. Our client is a young couple that plans to raise their growing family in this home here in the historic Arlington Deming district. The parents both work from home frequently, and with the way things have changed in the world in the pandemic, for most of us, they're spending a lot of their time at home, and would like to take advantage of their outdoor spaces as much as possible and maximize their exposure to nature and promote a healthy lifestyle. So with that in mind, we've developed this design and worked closely with Joyce to take care to keep the features set back, as Joyce mentioned, 40 feet from the street, as well as holding the structure back from the sides, and along also with our material selection, all of which we feel is very effective at keeping the historic facade of the building intact. I did want to note that we don't anticipate there are any special approvals that we would need from zoning. No variances or any adjustments are expected. We have reviewed all the conditions that Joyce just outlined with the Landmark staff. And we believe we can accommodate conditions 1, 3, and 4. However, we would like to request that the committee consider removing condition number 2 and allow the homeowner to keep the proposed planter on the west side. We believe that the plants will not be very visible from Arlington, as we've shown in our 3D views. And we also think that during the spring and summer, when the plants will grow in, they will actually be obscured by all of the existing street trees. So as you can see in the images here, we took these photos are taken just before the trees leaves started to come in. And so once the leaves actually do fill out, it's very difficult to really see much through that trees there and really see much of what's going on the roof. And then in the fall and the winter, when the leaves fall, the plants will actually be cut back. So we believe that the planters will have a very neutral impact on the appearance of the home. And so we wanted to ask the committee to consider removing that condition number 2. we're committed to honoring the historic district, and we appreciate the committee's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is Joyce. I just wanted to say that when we review these sort of things, that rooftop features such as plantings and landscaping that are on roof decks, we'd like to have those set back and low as height as possible so they're not visible from the public way. The way that the proposed planter is drawn, it's suggesting that the plants will project above that parapet and therefore would be visible from Arlington. And in the location here, it's the reason why that the guardrail also has to be 5 feet, or I'm sorry, 5 feet above the roof deck, because this is adjacent to it. Staff would be willing to consider a lower planter. So as long as the plantings inside of it would not project above the parapet, just in order to reduce, visibility of items on the roof.
Thank you, Joyce.
What's the height of the parapet above the roof? Was it 20 inches?
Robert, it's about less than about 2 feet?
Yeah, that's about right. It does have a slight slope, so it does vary from one end to one end, but yeah, 20 inches is approximately correct.
I mean, there's a couple of comments I would have. Is that one of them, putting the guardrail, attaching the guardrail to the parapet, is, I'm not sure I would suggest it, but just because I know how parapets in Chicago deteriorate pretty quickly. But the other thing is that those types of planters, no matter what you do, whether they're that size or smaller, is going to require some sort of insulation for any plant to survive through our winters, unless those are meant to be annual plantings, and those are going to be done every year. So you may want to take that into consideration as well. The ability, though, to have your planters movable and flexible, I think would be advantageous. That's my opinion, not necessarily the opinion of the commission, or this committee.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I guess my question is regarding the guardrail, because I think that the guardrail is it the commission's point that we don't want to see that guardrail, right? It's not. It's almost, is that, or is it the plants that's driving it?
I would like to reduce the visibility of that guardrail. So, reducing the height, setting it back with further inside the parapet would help that.
Well, if you set it in, it doesn't have to be that height, right? Because you end up decking. It actually gets lowered significantly.
Exactly.
So perhaps there's some work that can be done between staff and the applicant on this to kind of come up with a good solution.
Definitely, between this meeting and before the applicant applies for permit, we could definitely work on alternate locations for the planters, maybe different designs in order to, to work things out to minimize the visibility of the plantings on the roof.
I mean, the other thing that you might want to consider is kind of letting the planters, if you set the planter in a little bit, you actually could build the planter, or may have the planter itself serve as guardrail to some extent. Still have to go up the, what is it, 42 inches?
Yes, 42 inches. Yeah, I think the challenge that we have in doing something like that is that we're fairly limited on space with the footprint of the roof. And if we had to move it in a foot, for example, to keep it out of the visibility. I think that would restrict the space that we'd have to work with.
I have seen some planters that actually taper down so that you have, you know, the planting space would be like a foot at the top, but then taper down to something like 8 inches at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So you can maintain.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion on this point? Do we need to adjust anything on the recommendation, or just include that there's some more work to do there?
I'd like to make the motion to accept the staff recommendation, but on item number 2, have the staff work with the applicant to figure out a solution.
That's I believe that's a motion. Do we have a second for that motion?
Yes, I second that motion. I think there definitely is a, you know, solution nearby, you know, by working with staff, and I think you're almost there.
Thank you, Commissioner Ponce has seconded the modified motion, and I'm a yes as well, and that motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item number 6, 212 East Ontario, near north side multiple property district in the 42nd Ward. We're looking at the proposed new ADA accessible ramp in the side yard. And Joyce Ramos for the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This 3-story building is located mid-block in Ontario. The proposed scope of work will include an ADA accessible ramp that attaches to the landing of the front stairs. This new ramp will provide access to those with disabilities to the same entrance that the general public uses to enter the building. The applicant is also applying for a special use through the Zoning Board of Appeals. Staff recommends that the committee take no position regarding the zoning adjustments relative to the zoning code requirements. The existing front stoop located at the front elevation is concrete with stepped stone cheek walls and a non-historic railing at the center. The applicants are proposing to replace the stairs with new concrete stairs, code compliant steel handrails on each side of the stair, and guardrails at the landing. The ADA ramp highlighted here in yellow will be located in the side yard. The side yard is private property that currently has a sidewalk that provides access to the driveway and alley behind the building. The ramp will start at the sidewalk here and will travel up in the north direction to this landing. If the user continues to go straight, the ramp will continue down to provide access to the garage, driveway, alley behind the building. But if the user turns left, landing will provide a switchback, then the ramp will continue in the south direction and terminate at the new landing that will connect to the existing landing at the front entrance. Each side of the ramp will have painted steel handrails that are simple and open in design. The side walls of the extended front porch are proposed to be painted black to be more in keeping with the characteristics of the building. Historic preservation staff recommends that the existing new concrete wall shall be painted to match the color of the facebrick. The ramp will be located directly adjacent to the side elevation of the subject building. It will not touch or be connected to the building, but will obscure the existing basement level windows. And these windows are located on a secondary elevation and are not visible from the public way. Staff finds that the size and location of the proposed new ADA accessible ramp will not negatively impact the significant historic or architectural characteristics of the building and recommends approval as proposed. The committee has approved a number of modifications to landmark buildings intended to address accessibility requirements. The commission reviews the location, size, and design of these proposals to confirm that such modifications are compatible with landmark buildings and do not damage or obscure significant historic features. Exterior ramps have been previously approved from Underline College, Garfield Park Fieldhouse, Queen Chapel, the Chicago Cultural Center, Germania Club, and most recently at the Second Presbyterian Church. Staff recommends approval for the new scope of work for the conditions mentioned during this presentation and also listed here on this slide. If you have any questions about my presentation or for the architect and owner who are also here today, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joyce. Any questions for Joyce before we go to the applicant? Seeing none, let's hear from the applicant. Is it Philip Sardo? Oh, yeah. The applicant here?
So I could speak for Phil. I believe Phil is here as well, but I'm the architect, Doug Sandberg.
Oh, great.
Thanks for your time today. We are, the owners recently purchased this building. They actually have another historic building on Dearborn. And they are interested in finding a tenant for this building that is not its current use, which is single family. So they know that one of the first steps is making the building wheelchair accessible. So this project is about providing that infrastructure for the building for a future tenant. So anything else happening to the building will be handled by the tenant and their architect, but this is something that the owner has agreed to include in their scope in any tenant negotiations. So the ramp, we were able to make it work by starting it as far back as the existing concrete wall at the landing. It's obviously a more modern, new addition to the building, and we are using that as the cue for the design. And so we were able to get the ramp levels to work, starting at that as far back as we could at the landing. And we've had a couple of meetings with MOPD, making sure we're all on the same page. And I think that's all I really have to offer. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you. Any questions for the architect?
Yeah, I have a question. I was curious about how the handrails and guardrails are connected on the building side.
On the building side, sorry, I didn't realize my video wasn't on. So you're just asking, so along the side of the building, there are concrete walls that raise up to the level of the ramp, and the railing is, there are embeds in the concrete that we will weld to. So there won't be, it's not a bolted connection on top of the concrete, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. I was just curious how those were attached.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have the side elevation of that one, just to kind of confirm that? Okay. Is it going to go into the masonry, I guess? Is that what you're asking, Commissioner?
Yeah, that's what I was curious about, but it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't look like it.
No, that's right. It does not touch the existing masonry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm a big fan of, whenever you can be all accessible, I'm a big fan of that. And so in a tight site like this, this is a great job.
Yes, we're fortunate that the side yard's there.
Yeah,
Yes.
and there's an existing passageway there. It's on their private property, but it's heavily used by people crossing from Erie to Ontario, and the owners were interested in keeping that access just for the flow of the that they see there in the community.
And I see that you have a non-slip broom finish too, for winter conditions and any ice or water collection. what are measures you're taking to prevent from that collection?
You're just asking about the non-slip surface?
Yeah.
We will be, that will just be a given, I guess, that we will be speccing the concrete to be a non-slip surface. A texture, we haven't specified what that texture on the surface is, but we will be.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Ponce?
Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other questions from commissioners, points of discussion? Seeing none, I think I'd like to request a motion to adopt the staff recommendation. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Ponce. And do we have a second? I'm seeing that, where did Chairman go? Chairman Wong? Chairman Wong, we made a motion to adopt the staff recommendation. Commissioner Ponce?
Second.
Chairman Wong seconds, and I'm a yes. And this motion carries unanimously. So congratulations to you all, and good luck with the project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving to the next, and I believe the final item on the agenda, 2211 West Walton in the Ukrainian Village District, the second ward. We're looking at the proposed new rooftop addition atop an existing 2 flat. And Joyce Ramos for the presentation.
Thank you. This is the last time you'll hear from me today. In March of 2022, a permit application was received by Historic Preservation staff for a proposed rooftop addition. Staff communicated with the applicant comments regarding the commission's guidelines and standards in evaluating rooftop additions. In May of 2022, after reviewing a physical mock-up which demonstrated that the addition as proposed would be highly visible, the applicant revised the proposal by increasing the setbacks of the front and side elevations. So what I'll do for this is just go through the permit drawings. It's kind of like the process that we've gone through until now. The rooftop addition as submitted for permit was approximately 27 feet wide, which is the total width of the existing building, and approximately 39 feet in depth. This set back 20 feet from the projecting bay on the front facade and 17 feet from the primary facade. The front facade of the addition is proposed to be clad with brick to match the historic face of the brick of the front facade, and the side elevations are proposed to be clad with common brick to match the brick of the side elevations of the main house. The addition is proposed to have a flat roof with stone coping. The new stair is proposed to be in the existing side bay that will project up 1 story above the roof to provide access to the rooftop addition. The masonry walls are proposed to be built directly above the existing parapet with brick to match the common brick on the side elevations to have a seamless appearance. The parapet on the front facade is 30 feet above grade, and the top of the proposed addition of the roof structure is approximately 39 feet, with a floor to ceiling height of 10 feet. The proposed space will be used as a basketball court, spectator seating, a bar area, and a powder room. Historic preservation staff reviews all rooftop additions for visibility, often utilizing mock-ups to accurately represent work which may be seen from the public right away. Additions that are visible are referred to the permit review committee for review and decision. At the request of historic preservation staff, the applicant created a physical mock-up of the addition. A mock-up of the 2 front corners of the addition was constructed. The mock-up on the right is set in 2 feet inside the parapet. The forms highlighted in yellow on the following photos show the estimated location and scale of the mock-up on how it would appear if it were completely constructed. Staff visited the site and confirmed that the proposed addition will be very visible on Walton from several vantage points directly in front of the house, as well as is east and west of the house. At this vantage point that we see here on this slide, just taken across the street, looking straight at the front facade, the addition will be visible above the roof line for the entire width of the addition and is an adverse impact on the historic roof line of this contributing building. On this vantage point shown here, just west of the building, the addition will be visible and partially screened by the adjacent building. Moving closer to the gangway, though, between the two buildings, the entire length of the addition will be visible as spaces between the buildings are approximately 9 feet wide. At this vantage point here, west on Walton, the addition will be minimally visible from above the roof and is largely screened by the adjacent building. At this vantage point, just east of the building, the stair enclosure will be fully visible from the side yard, which is approximately 9 feet wide. Based on the mock-up of the proposed addition, as shown on the permit drawings, the addition will be very visible from the front and side elevations when viewing the building across the street directly in front, as well as east and west of the property. Per the commission's guidelines, additions will only be allowed if they do not alter, change, obscure, damage, or destroy any significant features of the landmark or district. Of particular concern are the effects of the addition on a building's historic relationship to its site, on a building's size, shape, and roof line, and on individual design details, elements, or materials which constitute all or part of the building's significant features. The addition as shown in the mock-up will have an adverse effect on the historic roof line of the building as it is highly visible from several vantage points along Walton, including looking directly at the front facade above the parapet. Since reviewing the mock-up and in response to staff comments, the applicant has revised their submission. The height of the rooftop addition has been decreased by 1 foot 10 inches for a total of 37 feet 5 inches, and the setback has increased by 5 feet for a total of a 25 feet setback from the projecting bay on the front facade and 22 feet from the principal facade. The west elevation of the addition has been set back 2 feet from the side elevation of the main house. The front and west elevations are now proposed to be clad with ephes, and the east elevation is still proposed to be constructed out of masonry directly on top of the parapet. Additionally, the roof of the stair enclosure is sloped to match the slope of the stairs below. The staff's opinion that even with the increased setback, the addition will be highly visible and therefore have an adverse impact on the historic roof line. To make an accurate recommendation, historic preservation staff advised the applicant that a new mock-up or accurate perspective renderings with vantage points taken from several locations that represents the worst case visibility of the revised design are needed for a complete submission. Without this information, staff cannot fully evaluate the project and cannot confirm that the proposal would not have an adverse effect. The applicant has chosen to not provide this additional information and insisted to move forward to the committee for review with an incomplete submission. Ukrainian Village Neighborhood Association reviewed the proposals and submitted a letter of opposition. And finally, staff recommends that the committee advise the applicant that the proposal for a new one-story rooftop addition as submitted is incomplete. Based on the incomplete submission, it appears that the proposed addition will be highly visible from the public way and would therefore have an adverse impact on the historic roof line of the building. The applicant should continue to work with staff to establish an appropriate setback size and location for the addition to minimize its visibility as much as possible and revise the proposal accordingly. Provide an updated mock-up and or accurate perspective views of the final proposal for historic preservation staff review, and return to a future committee meeting for review and decision regarding the project. This concludes my presentation. Since the staff analysis was submitted in the packet last Friday, the owner has informed us that they would like to present additional information. And I understand these perspective drawings, or I'm sorry, these perspective renderings were developed and staff received a copy of these just yesterday. But based on a very preliminary look, staff believes that the vantage points used to develop these renderings do not represent the areas that would need to be evaluated for visibility, such as from across the street. So please note that these renderings are not part of our analysis and do not change the staff's recommendation. The applicant is here today and she would like to present these images. If you have any questions for me or for the applicant, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joyce. Any questions for Joyce before we go to the applicant? Seeing none, let's hear from the applicant. Is it Lilia?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for taking the time today. My name is Lilia Zaporonic. I'm here with my husband. And I have to apologize earlier since I've never sat on any of these hearings. I wasn't aware. The first 3-minute talk I misunderstood was for the public to be able to intervene. And I very quickly went through some of our background with the village. So I'd like to sort of go over that one more time to just explain how vested we are in our community here. As I explained earlier, we did a renovation not too far from this property, about 3 blocks away, and we worked very diligently with Landmarks to restore the property back to its original state, including the front porch, cornice work, even had to rip down the original cornice that was rotted and replace it, which cost us over $75,000. So we do appreciate holding the integrity of the neighborhood. We've been here born and raised in Chicago in Ukrainian Village, and are Ukrainians ourselves. So we are vested in the community along with the church and the Ukrainian American Youth Association as well, where we are members. When we reached out to our architect, we also were very explicit in telling him that we're very conscientious in trying to keep the landmark integrity of the building in place. With that being said, we did work with Landmark Committee a little bit in regards to accommodating the required setbacks, which by code, the 20-foot setback was accomplished, but we tried to move it back 25 feet, which is what Landmark asked us to do, which at that point really changes the entire layout of the second floor of the property. So with that, I would like to hand it over to our architect who's on, Laszlo Simovic, who did a great job designing the property. And I'd like to have him explain a little bit about the project and why we have such limitations with the roof.
Good afternoon, board members. Thank you for having me on. This was a very interesting and challenging project. We have done some in the past, and most of our work has been rehab work. We've actually been acknowledged on a project in Wicker Park back in, 2008. Lilia and Mike came to me and say, hey, they wanted to do a 3rd-story addition. They want to relocate to this area. And coincidentally, we did another building directly across the street from there, which kind of prompted this whole process. As a result, they wanted a 3rd-story addition. They wanted to expand, and they want to settle in this area. Initially, when we approached it, we set the building back so that you would not see it from the front of the building. As a result, we've tried to. Obviously, we want to be sensitive to the landmarks area and the rest of the buildings, and we didn't think it would be that very visible. Ultimately, we met with Joyce. We had a meeting. It was kind of the 9th hour before the holiday, and she had made some recommendations, which we acknowledged. And of course, we've done the revision. We've actually moved the building back another 5 feet from the front. And we also brought and her recommendation was to bring in the west wall another 2 feet in, which we've done. And Mike was very kind enough to do it quickly before the holiday came in. And on the east side, we had the recommendation was to have a sloped roof for the stairs. There's the stairs inside the building that access to the 3rd floor. So we've accommodated that as well. And if as far as the height is concerned, we're pretty much at the 37-foot mark or that level, but we can also reduce the ceiling if necessary. But ultimately, we're trying to be sympathetic to the neighborhood, and we also would like to blend in as well. So that's it. And from my end, and if you have any questions, please feel free. Thank you.
This is
I'd
Joyce.
also just like to add as well. Oh, I'm sorry, Joyce, go ahead.
I was just going to say that, I did make a recommendation to increase the setbacks on both the front and side facades, but I also followed that up by saying that I would also like to see a mock-up and or renderings of this to have a more accurate showing of if the addition would be visible from the public way.
If I may, yes. We actually have a rendering that was done on a short notice. Unfortunately, we just received it not too long ago, and it was done quickly. If it would behoove the committee here, if we can share it or to show them, would be a more accurate representation of what we've done and the setbacks with the stairs and the roof to the sloped roof to the third floor, if you would mind, please.
Sure. Just so the committee knows, I had received this information just yesterday. I only had very short time to review this information, and it's not part of the analysis that was included in the packet that was submitted on Friday. And as of right now, the recommendations that are made still stand. But I will show. I will show the slides, and then Laszlo or Lily, if you want to speak. If you want to speak about them, you go ahead, and if you want to, just let me know when to advance the slides.
Thank you. So this is the view from the east side as you're walking towards the west. The roof was pitched as recommended, so that there's a bit of a relief there, not having that much of a visibility. If you want to proceed with the next slide, please. That's the front. And the next slide, please. Okay, obviously the building in the front is the neighboring building, but as you can see, the building was set back another 2 feet per the recommendation. Next slide, please. From the roof. And on the left side, as you can see, we have a stairs in the bay area, and the roof comes up and it slopes in because it follows the exterior wall of the bay window. And then as you can see there, the front, it was set back as well, quite a distance. Next slide, please. Well, this is the back. And then again, you just to reiterate the setback of the third floor. Next slide. From the roof. Next slide, please. And I think there's a video. This is from the east side on the back of the building. Next slide, please. And this is a video, if you don't mind. Thank you. A walkthrough, walk past. So there's our presentation. If anybody has any questions.
This is Joyce again. I just wanted to say that I do appreciate that the applicants did attempt to provide a complete submission. Unfortunately, this information was received after the packet was submitted. If staff had known that the applicant was creating renderings for review, we would have advised them to on where to take the vantage points to fairly analyze the visibility. In these examples that were shown, the angles were taken directly in front of the building where it wouldn't be visible, especially if you're looking directly in front of the building, directly in front of the house, you wouldn't see it. But these views don't really show like the worst case scenario to accurately evaluate the visibility of that rooftop addition. I would have recommended something across the street, further away, which is what we did the first time we reviewed the mock-up based on the original permit drawings.
And the recommendation was to move it back 5 feet, and we've actually done that. As far as the sides are concerned, we moved it in 2 feet, and we've created a slope on the roof. So, I mean, with all due respect, we did make an attempt to adhere to your recommendations here.
Oh, no, I recognize that. I just feel that the views that are provided here with these renderings don't show views taken from across the street, which would accurately show the visibility of the addition.
I would then have to ask my clients if they would like to proceed with the next meeting with these renderings, and we take one from across the street as well. We are, without a doubt, we are concerned with the neighborhood. They lived here. They most of their, virtually most of their lives. And they want to move to a different location and enjoy the area. And certainly they want to adhere to all the landmarks concerns. And I think we've made a very strong modifications to our initial design to accommodate. And we're willing to work with you as well as far as any other recommendations you may have, but we've made a serious effort. And thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Joyce, thank you for your presentation as well. And I want to just kind of come back to the commissioners and see if they'd like to ask any questions to the applicant.
My understanding is that as what you've shown before, the neighborhood group has written a letter of opposition so far. And the other point being is, working with staff, I think, is really imperative to really getting our committee and the commission what we are looking for in terms of trying to make something, make decisions in a fair manner. That apparently hasn't happened yet. So, for us to try to make a decision at this time, I think is a little unreasonable. We've asked, Joyce has asked you to do certain things, and yes, you have made efforts, but I think there has been a lack of listening and really coordinating those efforts with staff. So I would suggest going back and trying to do that further, and we'd be willing to take another look at this.
I appreciate that, Commissioner. And I mean, we were working under a pretty tight timeline in order to get on the agenda for this meeting. And unfortunately, the gentleman that was doing the renderings as well was out of country, and he did this very quickly to accommodate those requests from Landmark Committee. So we will definitely take that under review. And if Landmark is proposing that we set it back 5 more feet with the 2-foot setback on the sides, then we would have to, the drawings that we provided, I'm assuming, would go back to review. Joyce, is that correct? You're muted.
Joyce, you're muted.
Yes, that's correct. So any revisions that you are proposing to make to the rooftop addition would have to be revised on the drawings for staff to re-review, as well as an updated mock-up and or renderings.
I'd also like to just infuse here that we have our general contractor here, Giacomo, who's done several historic projects, and we have him on our team and even got an award for preservation. So we do have a team compiled to show that it is important to us to keep the integrity of landmarks in place as well.
Thank you. Okay. Deanna, did you want to say something?
Thank you, Commissioner. I just wanted to make a suggestion. Maybe it would be best that there would be just a preliminary review via mock-ups of like a workable mock-up where there could be a structure that could be moved back and forth so that there could be a decision made at the site and then revise the drawings. So you don't go through multiple revisions with drawings. So that way you can have an agreement at the site and then work on the drawings themselves.
That can be easily done. Yep. Thank you.
Great.
We'll set it up.
Okay. It sounds like that there's going to be some good work to hopefully come up with a solution that will work for staff. And I think that the renderings are definitely a good start, and working on the mock-up together seems like you're going to get there. So with that, any other further discussion, final points, commissioners? Seeing none, I'd like to request a motion to adopt the staff recommendation as presented today.
So moved.
So moved by Chairman Wong. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Ponce, and I'm a yes as well. And so this motion passes, and good luck. I have faith that you're going to come up with something that's going to work. And the renderings are definitely a good start. So we appreciate what you've done so far, and just needs a little more time, I think. So
Thank you.
all right, that is the last project today. So being no further business, I'd like to request a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Motion
Second.
to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Chairman Wong, and I'm a yes. So motion is the meeting is over, is adjourned. Thank you so much for your service, everybody. Thank you, Chairman, for joining us today.
Thank you. I miss it.
It was fun.
This is
Come on
fun.
back.
Oh man. No, this is all good. And
Have
thank
a
you for
fabulous weekend, everyone.
thank you for pushing this along. Seven
Yeah, we got through it
seven
pretty
items.
well.
Seven items in less than 2 hours.
We'll
That's
have
pretty
time to do some work. So
exactly. Thank you.
all right, have a good
All
one.
right, take care.
Bye-bye.